The first thing I noticed was the noise, not the volume exactly, though the music thumped and people shouted over it, but the way it was layered. Laughter, clinking glasses, the squeak of a bar stool being dragged, the shrill cheer from a group crowded around the pool table. It all blended into this strange kind of warmth that hit me in the chest the second we stepped inside. "It's okay if you hate it," my wife shouted in my ear. "We can bail after one drink." I nodded, though I wasn't sure yet if I hated it. Mostly, I was overwhelmed. The door had barely swung shut behind us, and already my body had flipped into some exaggerated awareness mode. My hands felt too visible, my shoulders too square. I suddenly had no idea what to do with my face. We were in a queer bar, for the first time, together. The place wasn't anything like the sleek, rainbow-drenched club I'd always imagined from TV. It was narrower, for one thing. A long, slightly sticky bar ran down one side, with strings of multicolored lights draped haphazardly along the ceiling. Framed photos and posters filled the walls. Drag performers, protest marches, couples kissing at Pride. The air smelled like beer, citrus, and a faint undertone of sweat and smoke that no amount of ventilation could fully erase. At the far end, where the room widened out, a small dance floor pulsed with bodies. It was still early, so the crowd was more of a sway than a full-on crush, but people were already moving in that loose, easy way of folks who know they're allowed to take up space. I felt like I'd walked into someone else's family reunion. "Do we seat ourselves?" I asked, half joking, half hoping some magical host would appear to tell me where I belonged. "Bar first," Mia said, squeezing my hand. "Liquid courage, remember?" She tugged me forward, her fingers warm and solid in mine. The overhead lights caught the copper in her hair, making it look almost fiery. She'd worn jeans and a black tank top with a jean jacket, casual but intentional, with a little bi-flag enamel pin on the lapel she'd bought last week. For me, for us. I hadn't had the guts to wear anything that labeled me yet. We squeezed into a gap at the bar. The bartender, a woman with a shaved head and glitter smeared unapologetically across her temples, slid over. "What can I get you?" she asked, then flashed a quick grin. "First-timers?" I stiffened. "What makes you say that?" "Your deer-in-headlights vibe," she said, not unkindly. "Don't worry, we don't sacrifice newbies, unless you ask nicely." Mia laughed. "Guilty. He's new. I'm the supportive spouse." She squeezed my hand again. "2 gin and tonics? Or do you want something else?" she asked me. "Gin and tonic is good," I said, grateful for the familiar choice. As the bartender moved away, Mia turned to me, brow raised. "You okay?" she asked, softer now that we'd tucked ourselves in against the bar. I scanned the room again. 2 guys in matching floral shirts were sharing a plate of fries. A group of women near the jukebox were lined up for a selfie, one holding the phone high as they tried to cram everyone into the frame. At the pool table, a person with purple hair and a sharp blazer bent over for a shot, their partner watching with unabashed appreciation. "I feel like I'm wearing a name tag that says tourist," I admitted. "You kind of are," she said. "It's okay. We're tourists tonight. We're allowed to be awkward." I looked at her, at the way she said "we," like this was something we were doing together, not just me dragging her into my midlife identity crisis. "Thanks for coming," I said. The words felt small compared to what I meant. She shrugged, smiling. "You came to a dozen of my corporate dinners. I can go to a queer bar. It's not exactly equivalent," I said. She tilted her head. "Maybe it is," she said lightly. "In both scenarios, you're in an unfamiliar room full of people who talk in acronyms, and you're afraid you'll say the wrong thing." I snorted. "Okay, that's fair." Our drinks arrived with lime wedges and tiny napkins. I took a generous sip, letting the bitterness and burn anchor me. Mia clinked her glass against mine. "To field trips," she said. "To field trips," I echoed. Behind us, someone whooped as the song changed to something more upbeat. A few people cheered. The purple-haired person sank their ball, and their partner kissed them in celebration. I sipped again, trying to let the environment seep in slowly instead of all at once. I kept expecting someone to look at me and see through me, to point and shout, "Straight guy, imposter!" Like there were rules I hadn't learned yet. A test I was bound to fail. You're not straight, I reminded myself, the way I had every day since I'd said it out loud 3 weeks ago. I'm bi. The word still felt strange in my mouth, like a new retainer. When I'd told Mia, it had been in the kitchen, of all places, dishes still in the sink, her laptop open on the table. I'd been thinking about it for months, maybe years, if I was honest. Little flickers of attraction I'd dismissed. The way my eyes followed men in certain movies. The faint electrical jolt when the new guy at the office put a hand on my shoulder in thanks. I'd shoved it down under idle fantasies, and every straight guy has a man crush or two, until eventually it didn't fit down there anymore. I think I might be bisexual, I'd said, the words tripping over themselves to escape. She'd stared at me, then said, "Yeah, that tracks," and gone back to stirring the pasta. I'd blinked. "What?" She'd looked up, amused. "Babe, you cried at Moonlight twice and you talk about Oscar Isaac like he's a religion," she said. "I kind of assumed there was a little more going on." "That doesn't mean anything," I'd protested weakly. She'd set the spoon down and crossed to me, slipping her hands around my wrists. "Hey," she'd said, "I'm not making fun of you. I just believe you, and I'm glad you're saying it out loud." "Are you mad?" I'd asked, the question tasting childish. "No," she'd said. "I'm curious, and a little worried you've been carrying this alone for so long, but not mad." We'd talked for hours after that, about labels, about attraction, about what was fantasy and what was real. She'd asked if I wanted to date men. I'd said I didn't know. I still loved her. I still wanted our life. I just also sometimes wanted to look at men and not feel like I was doing something wrong inside my own head. 3 weeks later, she'd shown me a flyer she'd pulled from a community board at the coffee shop. "Queer bar on Friday," she'd said. "They do a low-key night, no cover, more hangout than club. Could be a way to see what it feels like to be in a room where your label actually fits." I'd gone back and forth. Part of me wanted to say yes so badly my teeth hurt. Another part wanted to crawl under the couch and never emerge. Now, here, with the bass vibrating up through my sneakers and the word queer glowing in neon behind the bar, I wasn't sure which part was winning. "Do you feel like you're going to throw up?" Mia asked conversationally. "Only like 70%, I said. "Great. That's way below my personal threshold for we have to leave," she replied. "Finish your drink and then we'll move to a table. You can people watch without feeling like you're blocking someone's vodka." We claimed a small two-top near the wall, half in the bar area, half with a view of the dance floor. From there, I could watch the ebb and flow of the crowd without being in the middle of it. A couple slid into the booth beside us, a tall woman in a button-down and a smaller one with a buzz cut and giant hoop earrings. The taller one leaned in, whispering something that made the smaller one burst out laughing and swat her arm. "Is it weird that I'm jealous?" I asked, nodding toward them. "Of which one?" Mia asked. "Both," I admitted. She smiled. "Welcome to the club, babe." We fell into a comfortable silence, just watching. There was something oddly soothing about the way people occupied the space. No one seemed to be scanning for threats, for judgment. There were couples, sure, but also groups of friends, people alone with their drinks, two older guys in matching vests arguing cheerfully over a trivia card. I started to relax, just a little. Enough that when Mia went to the bathroom and my phone died dramatically at 1%, I didn't immediately panic. I was scrolling through the very last text I would see that night. Her, "Be right back. Don't run away." When a shadow fell across the table. "Is this seat taken?" a voice asked. I looked up. The man standing next to the empty chair was, there's no other word for it, beautiful. Not in a movie star way, but in that quiet, magnetic way some people have. Dark hair and loose curls, trimmed beard, a navy button-down with the sleeves rolled to his forearms, warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, which he was doing now, but gently, like he was trying not to spook me. I had the surreal sensation of seeing the exact type of man I'd always dismissed as objectively good-looking, and realizing, in real time, that my interest was not purely academic. My wife's sitting there, I managed, gesturing toward the bathroom. Ah, he said. Got it. No worries. He paused, then cocked his head. Can I still talk to you while you wait? He asked. Or is that against the rules? Rules? I echoed. Some people have them, he said, shrugging. No chatting up the married guy. No talking to anyone wearing New Balance. That sort of thing. I glanced down reflexively at my shoes. Vans. Safe. I don't have any rules like that, I said. Cool, he said, pulling the chair out but staying half standing, as if to give me time to object. I'll sit for a minute. If your wife comes back and looks murderous, I'll claim I was trying to sell you solar panels. That made me snort, my tension loosening an inch more. I'm Adrian, he said, settling in. He, him. I'm here most Fridays. You look new. Evan? I said. He, him, and... Yeah. First time in a place like this? He asked. I hesitated. First time... out, I said quietly. As... by. The word caught in my throat, but it made it past my teeth. Adrian's smile softened. Welcome, he said simply. How's it treating you so far? Loud, I said. And... weirdly normal. He nodded. Yeah, it's just a bar in the end, with fewer straight people talking about golf. I laughed. So, he said, leaning back, resting one arm along the back of his chair. How long has your wife known? 3 weeks, I said. How long does she get to hold the knew it before you did card? Forever, he said. Sorry, those are the rules. I smiled, then glanced toward the bathroom. No sign of Mia yet. A trickle of guilt slid through me. Sitting here, talking to a stranger at a queer bar while my wife was in the bathroom. It felt like someone was going to accuse me of something, even though the conversation was still very much in the hi, I'm a person phase. So, Adrian said, watching my face. Is this allowed? Is what allowed? I asked. Me talking to you, he said. You look like you're waiting for your parole officer to show up. I flushed. I just don't want to disrespect my wife, I said. She brought me here. I don't want it to feel like I'm running off the leash. His eyebrows lifted, but not unkindly. Does she know you're attracted to men? He asked. Yes, I said. Does she know other men will find you attractive? He asked. I snorted. That's a leap, he waved a hand. Trust me, you're cute. My brain glitched. Thank you, I said. He smiled, like he knew exactly how scrambled that made me. And does she know this is a queer bar where people talk and flirt and exist? He asked. Yes, I admitted. Then maybe, he said gently, you don't need to assume you're doing something wrong just by being here, or by having a conversation. My face felt hot. You're very reasonable, I said. I contain multitudes, he replied. Mia returned then, sliding into her seat with a rustle of denim. Hey, she said to me, then clocked Adrian and smiled. Oh, hi. Hi, he said. Sorry, I stole your chair while you were gone. I can relocate. It's okay, she said, waving him off. As long as you're not selling him solar panels. He laughed. Oh my God, I said. You two would get along dangerously well. She glanced between us, her eyes doing that quick, assessing flick I recognized from years of watching her read patients and coworkers. You Adrian? She asked. He blinked. Yes? She grinned, pointing at me. He texted me from the bar about this ridiculously handsome guy who just sat down and my brain has left the building, she said. Hi, I'm Mia, the wife. I stared at her, horrified and impressed in equal measure. I did not say ridiculously, I protested weakly. Sorry, she said. I'm paraphrasing. Adrian laughed, eyes crinkling. It's nice to meet you, he said to her. Your husband is very polite. I promise I was flirting at, like, a 2. I'm still learning the scale, I muttered. Mia reached under the table and squeezed my knee. You're allowed to enjoy it, she murmured, so quietly I almost missed it under the music. You know that, right? The words hit me somewhere deep and fragile. I don't know how, I said, just as quietly. Practice, she said. She turned to Adrian. So, she said, if you were going to flirt with my husband at, say, a 4 instead of a 2, what would that look like? I choked on my drink. Mia, I hissed. Adrian bit back a grin. I would probably start by complimenting his shirt, he said, studying me with exaggerated thoughtfulness. It brings out his eyes, and then I'd ask if he wanted to dance. I absolutely do not dance, I said. He does not dance, Mia confirmed, but he does blush in a very charming way. I'm right here, I reminded them. They both smiled, and unexpectedly, I felt something unclench in my chest. This wasn't the secretive cheating scenario my anxiety had painted. This was my wife and another man lightly teasing me, both very aware of the other's presence, both treating my attraction as something real and not catastrophic. A song I recognized drifted into the air, something slow but not syrupy, with a steady beat. A few couples drifted onto the dance floor. You don't have to dance, Mia said, catching my quick glance. But you could. With me. With him. With both of us. Or you can sit and sip your drink and observe like a shy anthropologist. All options are valid. My heart thudded. I kind of just want to sit, I admitted. Then we sit, she said simply. Adrian leaned back. Can I ask you something? He said to Mia. Sure, she said. Are you okay? He asked carefully. With this? With him, you know. She looked at me, then back at him. I'm in progress, she said. There are moments when it tugs at my insecurity. I wonder if I'm enough, if he's going to wake up one day and realize he wants a very different life. But I'd rather know who I'm married to than pretend. And if part of who he is means his heart does a little electric thing when a handsome guy smiles at him, I'd rather be here when that happens, not outside in the car, imagining something worse. My throat tightened. That's very cool of you, Adrian said. It's very scary of me, she corrected, but also kind of exhilarating. Watching him blush because of someone else and not feeling like I have to clutch him closer, knowing I'm still his person. You are, I said, the words leaving me before I could stop them. She smiled, eyes glossy. I know, she said, but it's nice to hear. We spent the next hour talking. Adrian told stories about his first fumbling trips to spaces like this, how he'd felt like he had fraud stamped on his forehead until a friend dragged him onto the dance floor and said, if you're here, you belong. Mia shared how she'd had a crush on a girl in college and buried it under the assumption that everyone did, and that it didn't mean anything. You're probably more queer than I am, I said to her. Labels are a team sport now, she said. We'll earn them together. At one point, Adrian did ask if I wanted to dance. Mia nudged me under the table. Try it, she said. If you hate it, you can come back and sit down. I won't combust. Which is how I ended up on a crowded, sticky dance floor, moving awkwardly to a beat that didn't care about my 2 left feet, with Adrian in front of me and Mia at my side. We didn't grind or make out or anything that would have justified the panic my brain had predicted. We just moved. Sometimes I was looking at him, sometimes at her, sometimes at the ridiculous disco ball, casting little lights across their faces. At one point, Adrian leaned in to shout over the music. You're doing great, he said, for someone who doesn't dance. I'm mostly swaying, I shouted back. It counts, he said, and his hand brushed my arm in a way that sent a bolt of awareness through me, not overwhelming, just undeniable. When we finally collapsed back at the table, sweaty and breathless, Mia pressed her cold glass against my cheek. "Well?" she asked. "I didn't hate it," I said. "That's basically a rave review coming from you," she said. On the walk home, the city quieter around us, the night air cool on my skin, I slipped my hand into hers. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" she asked. "For not being threatened," I said. "For rooting for me." She was quiet for a moment. "I am threatened sometimes," she said honestly. "Not by him or any specific person, just by the idea that there are whole parts of you I'm only just meeting. That's intimidating." "I get that," I said. "But I also love you," she continued. "And loving you means wanting you to know yourself, even the parts that might complicate my life." My throat tightened again. "What if I started, then stopped. "What if you what?" she asked. "What if someday I want more?" I asked softly. "More than flirting and dancing? I'm not saying I do. I just keep thinking about what happens if this doesn't stay theoretical." She sighed, the sound not annoyed so much as very, very human. "Then we talk," she said, "one step at a time. We set boundaries. We figure out what our marriage looks like in that reality. Maybe it doesn't survive it. Maybe it does, just in a different shape. I don't know. But I'd rather walk toward that honestly than backward into it with my eyes closed." We stopped at the corner under a street lamp. The light caught the copper in her hair again, the familiar slope of her nose, the tiny scar on her chin from when she fell off her bike at 12. "I don't want to lose you," I said. "You might not," she said. "You might end up with a stronger version of this. Or you might lose this version and find something else you didn't know you needed. Or we might muddle through, slightly confused, but mostly okay. There are a lot of options between same forever and total disaster." "Spoken like a true project manager," I said. She laughed, then sobered. "For tonight," she said, "how about we just let it be what it was?" "What was it?" I asked. "A date," she said. "Our first queer bar date, with a guest star." I smiled. "I liked our guest star," I said. "Yeah," she said, "me too." We started walking again, the city lights shimmering on the wet pavement. I didn't have all the answers. I still felt guilty and exhilarated and like I was tiptoeing across new ground. But I also felt held, not just by the vague concept of community I'd stepped into at the bar, but by the specific solid hand in mine. "You're allowed to enjoy this," she'd whispered. For the first time, I believed her.